Like, what was the first YouTube video you ever watched?
I remember where I was when I was watching YouTube for the first time. So I moved once as a child from one house to another house. And I was at my old house when I watched YouTube for the first time, which means I was at least earlier than fifth grade or sixth grade. And I think I was definitely in like second, third, or fourth grade, one of those years. And it was definitely something, one of those like exercise ball videos where people would just hold an exercise ball and two people would hold an exercise ball and kind of collide into each other at full speed. You know what I'm talking about? Where people just like
Okay.
each hold an
Yes.
exercise
Yes.
ball and then both
You're just holding
run
it.
into each other.
Boom.
Exactly. And just let the collision lead to a funny outcome. That was the first video I'm pretty sure I ever saw on YouTube.
Did you try to
And I remember it
recreate
was
it
in my
shortly
kitchen.
after?
Fortunately, I didn't have the equipment necessary. We probably tried with like pillows or couch cushions, or I'm almost certainly that shortly. Yeah, I mean, at some point in my life in the following years, I've definitely played all the exercise ball YouTube games before. Like doing it for the Vine was an expression, but seeing something online, mimicking it for the sake of it, that happened early in my life.
Fair. I like it. I like it. Welcome in, one and all, to another episode of Late Night Bitcoin with Q. I am your host, Q, coming to you live from my mother's basement, and I am joined by my good friend, Louis Shulman. Lois, thank you very much for taking the time to join me this late evening. How are you doing?
Bro, doing great. Don't feel that late. I'm a little sick right now, so I'm on the NyQuil grind, which means I could take some like the last quarter of a monster that my roommate didn't finish before this. So I kind of got the upper to like bring my evening enthusiasm out, and then I've got the NyQuil slated shortly thereafter. So
So
it's
you
three
straight up
plans.
mixed NyQuil and Monster before coming
Just
on
for
this.
you,
I mean,
man.
look, I smoked a joint before this, so I'm with you. But that's
I didn't
a
take the NyQuil yet. I'm just saying I've got it
oh, you haven't
already
taken
poured
okay.
out.
That's a
No,
very
no.
important
Otherwise, we
clarifying
would be
point.
limited to 30 minutes. So it's a very
Fair, fair. Did you ever have you ever taken just NyQuil and try to stay up and see what trippiness your mind comes up with, or am
there have
I
been a
just
few
a weird guy like that?
Well, there have been a few times where I take the NyQuil because I'm like, I need to go to sleep and I'm having trouble falling asleep. And then I decide I'm going to sleep. And then for whatever reason, something pops up that I'm like actually kind of calls my attention and decides like, I'm like, okay, overdrive. Like I want to stay up now because of this. And I don't know if I went to some like nth dimension or not. I feel like it's just, the concept of like drag in,
Yes.
I don't know, physics. I'm not like a very well versed in physics whatsoever, but the idea of drag is like the best metaphor I can think of. It's like doing every task, but with drag. And
Oh, you just need some
that's my
sleep at
NyQuil
that
experience.
point.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah,
actually
no.
something pulling you towards the bed, like a hidden hand.
Do you not feel like super groggy though the morning after you take NyQuil?
I feel great. I've got the most healthy relationship with NyQuil a man can have.
How often are you drinking NyQuil?
How often?
Yeah, like when you're healthy, like not when you're sick, but like when you're healthy, how often are you sipping on a
Infrequently.
NyQuil nightcap?
Infrequently.
Once a week? Once a month?
No, probably once a month.
Okay. Okay. I'll allow it. I'll allow it. If it starts to be like a multi-week thing, I got
No.
better
Well,
things for you, bro.
it's about the cycle. Is that stuff legal now? No way. Since when?
Oh man, we can go down that rabbit hole offline another time, my friend. But I will start now asking the real questions, and everyone gets asked the same question in the same way. What was the first time you ever heard about Bitcoin, and what was your initial reaction?
I'm pretty sure it entered my consciousness in my senior year of high school. I think the second semester, that'd be the spring of 2017, when, yes, 2017, when this came around in my existence. I had a AP Econ class, and my high school is one of those where the states like the AP exams are like the beginning of May, but you have school through the end of May. So some of your AP classes, you just have nothing to do for a full month. And some professors are like, cool, time for you to level up your town hall from a town hall 8 to a town hall 9. Here's a free month of an hour a day of Clash of Clans. And other professors are like, here's actual content vaguely related to what we cover in this class for you to keep busy with for a month. Unfortunately, my econ professor was someone who's like, actually, I'm going to take this opportunity to teach you other stuff. hopefully that you think is practical. And she started a personal finance unit, and that kind of set me in like the personal finance rabbit hole, which
No
is that
shit. In high school, you actually had like, do you, oh my God, not to interrupt you, but like how, I want to talk on that for a second.
oh yeah.
How awesome was that, to like be taught that? And what were the things she taught you?
I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have just been what's his name. It might have just been straight up Dave Ramsey on the TV in the classroom.
Oh, like she was, but she was like taking that opportunity to show you these
Like
type of
using the
videos.
hour we're in the classroom to like just
Right.
put on Dave
I
Ramsey
dude,
videos.
I was
It was
notorious. Like I would negotiate with some AP teachers. Like, can I just cut class right now?
yeah,
That
I
was
think she
just
like
me.
still took attendance, but didn't have any like assignments. But it was like, if you're in here, you can't avoid listening to Dave Ramsey for an hour a day for the last month of your senior year of high school. So sorry, not sorry. And again,
Senioritis
yeah,
hit me hard.
props to her.
So within that, one of these videos, I'm assuming, then introduced you to Bitcoin.
I think I took a personal interest in what was going on in the classroom because it's like, wow, this, actually matters in obvious ways. And so I had some time. I downloaded like iBooks and I bought like Investing for Dummies. There was like a 6-book set of Investing for Dummies for like, I don't know, like $10, like the whole thing. And again, I had 4 hours a day, and 2 hours a day of Clash of Clans was plenty for me in high school, right? Just like the other two AP classes where they did nothing was plenty. And so in those remaining two, I just like read all 6 of those books on my phone, and one of them must have covered Bitcoin.
Really? Wow. Investing for Dummies got it right one time at least. All right. So you hear about Bitcoin. Do you ape in? Do you blow it off? Like what happens to your and Bitcoin's relationship after reading about it in Investing for Dummies?
Yeah. I'll say up until now, because I'm not sure how true this currently is, but I'm definitely someone who likes to be hit over the head with the same thing like 7 or 8 times until they do something about it. And very much like the classic in marketing and marketing psychology, consumer behavior, the average customer needs to have seen your brand or your offer, your messaging 7 times before they take action on it. And I think I apply that same metaphor to like finding a piece of knowledge. Or you read 7 self-help books that all say the same thing, but it's actually the 7th one where you're like, oh, I'm going to write out my to-do list or something. I don't know, like the thing, like the obvious piece of advice. So I think for me with Bitcoin, it was genuinely around like the 7th or 8th time I encountered it before I actually was like, okay, this is worth learning about, paying attention to, whatever. So maybe it comes up in the textbook, or not. The Investing for Dummies book on my book over the summer. Maybe a YouTube video comes out over the summer where I watch like the 3 blue, 1 brown. What the heck is Bitcoin? There's a couple of Netflix documentaries at that point in time because I was still a Netflix guy at that point in my life. And so maybe like watch a documentary, watched a YouTube video, read the book, and then, fast forward to fall of 2017. I'm a freshman in college studying computer science. And, you're surrounded by, let's call it like an 85 to 15 or 95 to 5 dude ratio. And, 2017, all dudes, computer science, like Bitcoin's in the picture. So it's probably just like 3 or 4 side conversations at a hackathon, meet a couple kids at the hackathon who are like seniors who are making all this money. And obviously everyone's interested in like who they are and what they're talking about. So it's very much like in the air at the time and the moment in history. And so I ended up buying some in that hype cycle, not a ton, just enough for practical use cases, we can say. And based on my age at the time, we can leave it there. And
He's not a whale, ladies. Get out of his DMs.
Exactly. I'm not trying to sell you anything in the DMs, at least not Bitcoin. I do actually do some cold DM outreach for my actual business because it's super viable. But I know, letting the pause, just owning the pause there. From that point on, though, 2017, bought a little bit, used it for whatever I decided it was useful for. And then the crash kind of happened. I got pretty busy with school and was really focused on, I was in a fraternity, trying to like make friends, get like adjusted to the whole everything else that was going on in my life at the time. All good things. And then I don't think I really got passionate again until, let's call it like 2020. I don't even know if I was passionate in 2017. I was just aware and had some and had created a Coinbase account. But I don't think I ever took like an actual intellectual interest in it until 2020.
Valid. Like, you're never too late. You're never too early. You arrive exactly where you intend to because we are all glorious wizards. I do want to, like, obviously, and I say obviously because you needed to be hit over the head 7 more times before you actually got the Bitcoin message. What was, at least in those 6 books of Investing for Dummies, what came across? Like, what stuck from Investing for Dummies? I kind of want to know.
6 years later, what are the enduring lessons
Yeah,
of
like,
Investing for
dude,
Dummies
it's,
6 book volume?
let's see.
That's
Was that
a
was
legendary
that a
question.
valuable $10 invested? This is late
Oh,
night TV,
100%.
bro. We're getting to like the nitty gritty details.
Yes. The one of them was I say prime takeaways were like it's just the ego and stock picking stuff. That's just like you're not going to win picking stocks. Period. That's like the one sentence lesson. Just all
So
those
did
books are,
you?
again, if anyone's read like mainstream personal finance books, they all say the same things, like budget and make boring investments and don't look at them too frequently. And it's fair roughly to assume these returns over a long period of time. Very, very unexciting, but rudimentary fundamentals with not proper legal warnings about how much you should read into the book being true versus not versus your
Valid.
standard spiel.
I
That is the
like,
For Dummies moniker, is what they're known for. Is the
but you bring up a valid point where it's like there's just a generic list of things that mainstream media, sort of financial books, will sort of feed you, and like I personally, I've gotten to a point where I'll start reading one and I'll be like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's just the same thing repackaged in a different cover with like different words. And, uh, but there's also some things where, like, maybe it's my ego a little bit that I'm just like, this is dumb. I don't want to. Yes, that is a roach right there. That is, the little hodler is smoking weed for,
nice
double OXJO in the chats. Um, What was the first stock you ever bought?
first stock.
Yes, individual. I don't want to. I don't give a shit that you bought into the narrative that you
Yeah,
can't beat the S&P
yeah.
500.
No, I've
Tell me
I've
about the
YOLO'd.
first stock.
He's YOLO'd, but it's definitely not Plug Power. But that one sticks out in memory as like in the early days, everyone loves Plug Power as traders. Obviously,
Mhm.
big tech. Couple like the big techs. I've never been a Microsoft guy, and maybe that's going to come back to bite me. Maybe not. I just hate the Office ecosystem violently. I just really dislike the Office ecosystem and OneDrive and anything that like has the taste of Microsoft. Just really doesn't work with my brain. I think certain software works well for certain people's brains, and my brain and Microsoft just have never gotten along. And so I
Fair.
was always super bearish on. I just didn't want to associate myself any more than I needed to with their stock. I remember when I was a child, when I first learned what stocks were. I don't know how old I was, but like I was at my grandmother's house, and I have a memory of like being like, when I'm old enough to buy stocks, I'm gonna buy Krispy Kreme stock. It was like my first. That's like a very clear memory for me.
um,
But I don't know if I acted on that
I
when the time
genuinely
and
want to
place
ask, because
happened.
I remember the day that Krispy Kreme declared bankruptcy. Like, I think I was in middle school. I think you were like, because if I did the math right there, you're
Must have
6
been
years
the
younger than me.
exact same day I thought
Like,
about buying their
literally the
stock.
same moment that you were like, I'm gonna buy Krispy Kreme stock, they were declaring bankruptcy. So yeah, maybe you should listen to those financial books because you should not pick stocks.
And thinking if anything
Okay.
else sticks out in memory, I don't know. I think just my worst financial transaction was buying a whole share of Amazon at the absolute top. That was of this recent market.
Oh damn! Like, just did you like save up to then buy the one share? Was
I
it
don't know
like
if
that kind of a situation?
I don't know if I had it in like an account that I was like I need to like allocate this lump sum during this peak cycle for whatever reason, and just chose not a winner.
Fair. I mean, like, I would say this last market, there were degrees where, unless you were really paying attention, you didn't recognize that it was overly inflated due to the Fed's pump. And once they started to put their foot off the gas, it was like this slow, steady, and then you'd get a bounce. You'd be like, oh no, it's another high, another high. What were the
I don't know if I agree with
lessons?
that. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like you
Like,
had to be paying. If you're paying any attention, you knew that things were inflated. Obviously, it's easy to say that with hindsight. It's just like getting
right,
excited. I know specifically the groups you and I are hanging out with at this point in time. Like everything's a super cycle, irresponsibly bullish people everywhere you go, and like the circle you're surround yourself with really dictates your beliefs in terms of like what is special and like. So there's a point in time where I was like, everyone has a podcast and everyone has an online course. It's like, well, maybe it's just because every week I interview someone on my podcast who also
who
has a
has
course. And it's like, is
valid?
that actually society or is that just like the group I hang out with? So, in fall of 2021, when I was working at Bitcoin Magazine and everyone is just hyper bullish and like extraordinarily so, like Bitcoin was, of all of the words that I encountered in a given week, Bitcoin was 60% of them. It's like I was not in a environment to think neutrally about any sort of financial anything.
Valid.
But in terms of like
Do you
investing for
remember what I
dummies,
said to you on the beach though, when we
you,
were playing volleyball?
I know I was going to say when we were playing volleyball on the beach, you had some hot takes about the stock market at the time.
I pointed out and I literally pointed to Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And I'm like, if you actually calculate how much they grew their businesses, you could argue that they are better at allocating capital than just any VC, any investment, anything. And the two of them
You were
have sold
feeding the
shares.
bullish narrative.
No, dude, I was talking about how the two of them are, for the first time in a very long time, selling
Selling.
shares of their own companies. And if these people have led the charge for the last 10 years and now they're taking chips off the table, it's probably time to start taking chips off the table, which was like early, but
That was
right.
Thanksgiving of
Yeah.
21.
Oh, that was the literal top. Oh, wow. I should have taken my own advice there. I didn't take enough off the top.
No, I guess my point is that the emotional mania of the circles I was in, and to which to a large extent you were in as well, just clouded rational decision making, which is something I allowed to happen. And if I stuck to my guns of investing for dummies, like basic fundamentals are like P to E ratio, just like very, very basics. And things were inflated. Like I don't know what the average P to E was of the S&P, but it was like obscene. And I was like, it's okay.
It was
Super cycle.
over 40. It was over 40.
Yeah. For the whole thing. That's like 5+ years. It's like stupid.
It was so inflated. And the narrative that I've really bought into,
just too much opium, too much Dylan LeClaire.
Definitely. You got to stop listening to Chart Boys. The thing that really I think I took away from a lot of it though was this idea or this, oh, I just had it and then I lost it. Oh, I should not have smoked weed before this. All right, I'm gonna steal Joe Rogers' question from the chat and just have us answer that now. What is the worst shit coin you ever bought? I'll go first and then I'll let you go after. I definitely bought SafeMoon at or near the top. Not proud of it. I definitely, when I was sitting next to Portnoy and I was talking to him for a little bit, I talked to him about it. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to lie. When you said you bought SafeMoon, I was so amped. I thought I was going to be rich. What about you?
I think for me, it's definitely the DeFi index funds.
Ooh. So excellent answer.
Talk like DPI, GMI.
Explain like what it is, how you get exposure to it, and where you can get exposure to that, because it's not available everywhere.
I bought those probably on like a Uniswap or something similar. I had a Web3 wallet, MetaMask, and I still have it. And I was checking it recently.
Those are dirty words on this show. Those are fighting words.
They are. But it's kind of just like I've been wrong about a lot in my life and I'll continue to be. So like maybe all these other guys, it's again, small percentage of the portfolio to go to zero, but not actually zero, but close. And at one point, it's just like, I think I allocated like a quarter of an ETH. There are 3 different. So, okay, to answer your question, the concept of an index fund, buy a basket of things in like a particular industry or with a particular set of common attributes among all of the various things. Like I'm paying some attention to DeFi, not a ton. There's some people that seem excited about it. Some of them seem intelligent, for good or for bad. And let me just like have something that reflects this if it does actually eat everything in this cycle. And so there's something called DPI, which was the DeFi Pulse Index, which was probably about 16 different protocols. So like your Aave, your other ones that are related to DeFi, like Maker, and so I don't know, just all the DeFi buzzwords of the time I bought them, of like late 2021, early 2022. And I put and then there's another one called the GMI Index, which probably, again, another one of the benefits of hindsight. Surprise, surprise that the GMI Index did not make it. But that was like a Bankless created basket. Like the guys from Bankless created their own basket of like their favorite under the radar projects. And then there was one more that was like, even worse idea, but the Metaverse Index, MVI, was just like also a bunch of like Metaverse tokens on Ethereum that were bundled together. So I put a quarter of an ETH into each of those, and they depreciated relative to Ethereum, and then also the Ethereum at the time, of course, was triple, or not triple, but 2.5 times what it's worth now. So I'd say definitely like an average loss on those of like 75% each as of today.
Fair. I think this is a great time for us to shift the conversation. You and I were DMing because Lois has secretly been trying to live my life, both
Apparently
going
so.
down going down the Hormozy rabbit hole, in addition to just hiring Chat GPT as our personal assistants. My God, Chat GPT has got to be Joe.
What's Joe saying? Joe's a funny guy.
Joe says he regrets asking the question. You're welcome to ask another one. We will continue to answer anything your heart desires. But we're going to talk about Chat GPT.
I don't want to get distracted, but I'm very curious to see if Joe unfollowed me after the amount of shitcoin buzzwords I rattled off the top of my head.
We'll address Joe's anger towards us after we talk Chat GPT for a second. So if you've been living under a rock, what is Chat GPT? Easiest way to explain it is it's an AI program where you can essentially ask it anything from a Googleable question all the way to what I just built, and I'm about to share the screen with you guys. I had Chat GPT right before we came on build me a discrete log contract written in JavaScript to bet on the outcome of this Sunday's Arsenal football match. And
classes are coming on.
As someone like, my first question to you, because you majored in computer science, do you know JavaScript? Okay.
Yeah, well enough to read it. Okay, so that's fine. Okay. I don't know much about programming on Bitcoin, to be fair. So I don't know much about like actually interact. Well, I guess
I'm less curious about whether this could actually work. No, Lois, what I kind of want to know from you is like just as a quick glance over, like I had to do it in a Python environment previously. Like this one up here is in Python, and I know how to code in Python roughly. And this to me looks like a rough outline of a Python script. So what I kind of want to get a sense from you is, does this look like a rough outline of a Java script?
Yes.
Okay. So that, I think, perfectly encapsulates the range of Chat GPT in a nutshell. You could do something as simple as literally like if you're just Googling a question.
But it also does seem to scratch the surface at the same time.
Valid. That's sort of what I want to get into with you is, I'm going to admit this, and I really hope none of my potential employers are watching this, but like I've been using Chat GPT to write my cover letters. I'm using Chat GPT to. I agree. I totally agree because, and my logic on this is quite simple. Most of these like larger companies, when they're asking you to submit your resume and cover letter, they're using a program on their end to just quickly read through the resume and see if you have the right buzzwords. And then they your resume goes into the.
Put all the parameters in your prompt. Like, how much have you gotten into like writing good prompts? Like, is that something you've been pretty deliberate about?
Okay. Yes. Like the prompt I just showed
I would write something that's like, my intention is for this to get past an ATS screener. I am assuming that it is not a human who's taking the first pass at this cover letter. Make sure that this is like written such that it would make it through an ATS. And like then it would probably stuff it more than it would otherwise if you didn't tell it to. Stuff it with keywords.
Oh, dude, so what I do is I will fully copy and paste the full from, if the if the
The
job
job
description has a
description.
little bit about,
Yeah.
yeah, if the job description has a little bit about the company, I'll take that. I'll take everything about the job description, what you're going to do, what your requirements are. I take all that. And then I take my resume and then I give it the additional parameter of with this work experience. And then it like literally just
Oh yeah.
pairs my work experience. I usually
It's
take a couple of things
phenomenal.
out, but then I'll like add like, one or two sentences, but I've gotten it like at least with writing papers for me, I've gotten it down, I think, to a very good science of like how much information I need to give it versus like I know even to a degree, I'll send it like, hey, use these 3 websites as your source for something. And like I'll like really force it to give me
Hmm.
content curated in a certain way. I've started to play with that. I know a lot of people complain, oh, it has this bias. Well, there's a way to play with that bias a
Bro,
little bit
anyone
too.
who complains about the bias of it, I'm just like, just straight. I don't even know what the meme is called, but just straight NPC response.
I mean, we like you have to understand like more than half the people are NPCs.
More
Like
than half.
more than half.
And I'm not gonna say I don't have aspects of my life that like I am an NPC. I'm gonna have that degree of awareness. Like there's certainly like bodies of knowledge that I'm definitely NPC about. But when someone says like, oh, blah 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 bias, I'm like, next. I'm
Talk to me
like, this
about
isn't
like
someone who's gonna have a nuanced take about this software, that's for sure. Let's move on.
all right, what is it? Okay, we've established what your least favorite take on Chat GPT is. What is your favorite take on Chat GPT?
Just the extent to which we're underestimating it. Basically, that's like you and I, the stuff we're talking about right now is like silly and small and cute, right? Like cute, like minuscule, like unimportant. Not unimportant. Like I'm not belittling how useful it is for
It's
us,
fine. I'm
but
just trying to
like
build a whole computer app off of Chat GPT, but sure, it's minuscule and unimportant because the app won't
that's
change the
that
world. I know that.
that's the take though, is like that it's the same take about like the internet. It's just the early ideas just are nothing compared to like after the dust has settled and people start like combining things with other things. Just like we've barely started to approach what we can actually do with this and like how significant that'll be.
So,
So just
like,
like back to what I was saying earlier, just irrational
no.
bullishness is the only is the only take that I'm here for right now.
So I take it you essentially replaced all of the irrational, bullish, investors in your circle, and you've now surrounded yourself with irrationally bullish AI people. Is that
Yes,
my takeaway right now with who you run with?
super accurate.
um,
I'd actually say that's not totally the case. I have like a sidebar tangent about like my
okay,
opinion of
go.
cities, but
Okay.
because I moved to Scottsdale, and so Scottsdale is a very interesting city. And so like
Are you
if you
just
compare it to like
partying like every weekend with different
I'm not
bachelorette
actually.
parties?
I
You
should
are
be.
doing
I really should be.
Scottsdale wrong, man.
Bro, I lived in Nashville. I've lived in Vegas. I've lived in Scottsdale.
That's right. You're
Like
from Vegas. You're partied out at this point.
that's kind of what I'm saying. So it's like
Fair.
I learned very early. Like you travel the world just very, very little. Like I'm not trying to sound like this super traveled person who like knows how the world works. But like you'd do any amount of travel and you realize that there's a party happening somewhere all the time. So it's like if there's ever a point in my life where I feel deprived of like party, I'm like, oh, I really worked too hard during this phase of my life. Like I can just buy a flight to like one of those destinations that there is a party happening at any point in time. There's like it is always available. You can tap into it whenever you feel like you need debauchery. It's just there's a corner of the world every day of the week. It is an option. Full, everyone just giving it their absolute all on the dance floor. So like that is always available to me if I feel like I need it.
I love that description. Giving it all on the dance floor. Okay, give me your take on cities right now. I'm curious. You have my attention. I will give you my curiosity if this is a good take.
Okay. I'll give some credit. I think it's like a Paul Graham thing to be like cities have personalities. But so for me, it's like I'm trying to assess the personality of the cities I've been in. And Scottsdale is very money oriented, but not at the expense of like the quality of your life. It's like people in Scottsdale like want to make money in like a somewhat proven way that like will work. Whereas San Francisco is like the visionary who's like, I want to do something crazy that's like either going to be $1 billion or a bust. Whereas people in Scottsdale are like, I want to do something that's going to
Mm.
work. And then after I've done that, then I will go do this other thing. But also I want to have quality of life and I want to be in shape and I want to be normal and have like a well-adjusted life. Whereas like San Fran, I feel like kind of has the vibe of like I'm gonna be extreme esoteric and just like go all in on this like visionary idea and like the
When
hyper
was the last
bullish
time
on
you were
tech.
in? When was the last time you were at San Francisco?
I was there in September. I was saying like not of like the whole city, not of like because there's also the like I went to San Fran for a week and I haven't left my backpack in a car anywhere I've been since then because the paranoia of that experience has just lingered for 6 months. But and I just keep talking about like the tail risk. It's like I hate the DMV. I hate chores. Like I don't like chores, like small things. So I'm like for me the tail risk of like replacing a single item in my backpack and how inconvenient that would be is just worth carrying. Like I go to a gas station at a rest stop on a road trip. I'm like,
And you take
backpack's
your
coming
backpack
in, dude.
inside.
Backpack's coming in. I'm like, just the inconvenience of losing my laptop would just be so annoying that I would rather just carry my backpack everywhere all the time. Maybe that's a little psychopathic, but
You want to hear one of the
thanks, San
craziest
Fran.
stories that
PTSD, PTSF.
I one time in college, I was like interning during the school
Did you
semester.
go to USF?
No, I went to George Washington out in DC.
Okay, that's right.
I was interning during the school year, and I think, I know exactly what it was. I stayed up late to watch the Lakers game the night before, and it was a West Coast game, so it was like I didn't go to bed until like 2. They went to overtime. It was a whole fucking thing. So I'm exhausted. I'm on the metro. Get off the metro to go into the office, and I'm about to walk in, and I realize I left my fucking backpack on the metro with my laptop. And dude, I'm freaking out. I have to submit a report. My boss is like, yo, it's fucking gone. Like that metro line goes straight to the hood next. Like you're screwed, bro. You're never getting your laptop. I was like, oh, you're a dick, bro. You could literally buy me like 500 laptops and it's not even going to put a dent in you. But I'm sitting here freaking out. Like, how the fuck am I about to buy a new laptop? So call my dad. My dad sent me like his iPad to borrow at least until I can finish out until Thanksgiving, because that's the closest holiday coming up, and I was going to go home for that. And 2 weeks go by, like nothing. And then all of a sudden I just like randomly get an email from the DC metro system, and it's like, oh, your like lost item has been reported found. And I was like, no fucking way. Mind you, I lost my backpack. So I submitted a report with the backpack, but I did mention that there was a laptop inside. So in my head, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I probably only have my backpack. Like somebody saw this, snagged the laptop for themselves, and then the laptop, or then turned in the backpack as like, oh, like a lost and found, whatever. So I have to skip my next class. It's like an hour and a half via metro to get to like the spot where it is. I have to take like 3 different lines. The whole thing. I show up, wait in line, and then I see them bringing my backpack out. And it was like one of those old beat up JanSport backpacks that I had since high school. And I could fucking tell my laptop was in it just by the weight holding it down. Dude, let me tell you, crying tears of joy are a beautiful fucking thing. So it can be, you can find the lost laptop. Let me tell you, not worth it. You are absolutely right. So not worth those 2 weeks of just misery, hell, and like bug. So to a degree, I feel you. San Francisco is sketchy as fuck, man. Like that's also why I was trying to ask you, when was the last time you've been to San Francisco? Because San Francisco is like overrun with homeless people at this point. You really can't go a lot of places without seeing them. Most of the money has now left the city and even the state. So, but I get what you're saying. Cities have, different flavors. They have a personality to them. Like Boston's a very gritty city. I think DC is like a wannabe New York that somehow we give it power and influence. Then literally everyone just sits there talking about how much they hate DC too. Don't even get me started on that. LA is the fakest city in the world, but we got the sunshine and the weather. So, and your dad knows the best part of LA. Do not say it on air. We keep it a secret. It is a secret. I don't need, it's already expensive enough here. I don't need more people finding out where the best part of LA is. But I digress. So you've established what Scottsdale's personality is. You've established what San Francisco's. You've lived a ton of different places. what is what is in your opinion the ideal personality of a city, and in turn, where is that city for you?
Ideal is relative because it depends what you want out of life, right? Like I don't know if I want to raise children in Scottsdale. Uh, I remember I had this friend and she graduated college and had like a going away party, and she was also a camp counselor and she lived here. And so I went to like her going away party because she was moving to Florida for a job. And she was like a camp counselor. So like we were there and like a bunch of people were like, I don't know, 22, 23. And then all these like 13-year-old girls were there, and because they were like her campers. And these girls, I mean, they were just traumatically ratchet. And
what? Explain yourself,
poor
sir.
girls.
Explain.
It was an uncomfortable situation. They're just like, how old do you think we were? I'm like, I don't know, you guys like 16? I don't know. Like y'all are like not old.
They were
Y'all are not 18.
Trying to hit on you?
No, I think they were just like they were like really concerned with like they were all getting drunk and like smoking the vapes.
13?
And I was just like the vapes. I was like, and like all made up and like wearing the outfits. And I'm like, this is just not. I'm like, this is like a nice family. Like the host of this party is a very nice family. And I'm like, so like this is like good like theoretically like a good part of the community.
Oh my God, like, I'm being very judgmental, but oh my God. Joe,
yeah,
how do you feel about that? Like, would you be comfortable with your 13-year-old daughters doing that? Throw it in the chat so that all the people listening later.
And I'm not trying to cast judgment. I'm just saying.
No, I'm casting
for me,
judgment.
That's not my ideal 13-year-old daughter's vibe. I'm not going for traumatically ratchet.
That is
someone's description.
I love that description. Traumatically ratchet. I'm gonna steal that when I describe just children who are raised in ways that I do not want to raise my children. And hey, to each their own. Like this is why I presented the question the way I did, because like what you value and what I value are different. Like for me, I got to be close enough to a mountain to be able to go snowboarding. It sucks that I can't go snowboarding this season, but like that to me.
Snowbowl, it's only 2.5 hours away from here. Flagstaff, Snowbowl, it's not a bad mountain.
Everyone says that, and then I've heard from people who've done both.
I'm not a snowboarder.
Essentially,
I don't know enough to say if it's actually good or not. I had a nice experience.
I've heard it's comparable to like the smallest mountain here in LA, and it's like it's serviceable for a day trip, but for my appetite, it will leave me unfulfilled, unsatisfied.
That's believable, probably.
Oh,
it's not Colorado.
Yeah, no, I've been very fortunate and lucky to have traveled far too many places to snowboard. Flagstaff is somewhere that I want to go just to.
It's not a destination. No, it's not a destination.
My dad, though, is actually out in Phoenix a lot. So him and I kind of joke about what one weekend, once I'm recovered, I'll be able to go and we'll take a quick little trip. But okay, we got distracted a little bit here. And you didn't actually answer the question, but I appreciated the
ideal city.
No. Yeah,
Scottsdale's ideal for me based on what I'm trying to do in life right now.
For right now, okay. But now, just okay. All right, I'll accept that, despite the fact that you're surrounded by tragically ratchet families.
Well, I'm not. That was my only encounter with like that demographic since I've been here. Fortunately, otherwise, just like other young entrepreneurs building.
Valid. Okay. Shall we return to Chat GPT, or is there more about cities that you want to get off your chest?
I've said it all.
Fair. I got a question for you. What city, like layout, design, sort of the way a city has been mapped out by the city planners, do you find most efficient, and why? At least the ones that you've experienced.
I definitely like walkability. I like walkability and public transit for sure, or bikeability.
So you're an East Coast.
Depends on the weather. I'm saying if we're just talking about like efficiency.
No, like strictly from an efficiency standpoint, but like would it?
I just like I recall being like I spent like 3 days there in Singapore, But I just remember that was like, I felt like I did everything in like 3 days. I feel like I went everywhere and it's so easy and it's so fun. But also I was on vacation. So like I had no like sense of time and urgency, right? I was very like, if this takes an hour, that's not that long. So it's tough to say. Like I wasn't judging it as the like under the guise of like a watch bound person who's like, aha, that's 15 minutes. Can't afford that on a weekday. I don't know.
Valid. Okay. No, I can appreciate that. Um, cool. Chat GPT. So how have you been applying Chat GPT to your life?
So I've got a lot of computer real estate. Fortunately, I've spent the money to invest in lots of screens, and so now it's just an always open part of the workday. It's just always there. And so I used to be pretty fast at like text transformation, which we're starting niche and like not that significant of a. Thanks, Joe, for popping up with a question. So I think it's life changing, man. But it's definitely making me rethink like every small workflow that I do, because it makes you again question like, do I have a unique way of doing this, or have I just like understood something that's easy to describe and should have gotten it off my plate sooner rather than later? So Q, to your point about the jobs that you're applying to, and I was like, who cares if you're doing the cover letter yourself or if you're having it done for you? Because at the end of the day, you're hired to get something done, not for you to do a thing most of the time. Not that like, jobs want you to like explicitly subcontract your work. Like that's not what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, it's like you are now in charge. You are accountable for these deliverables being delivered. However you get that done. Like any environment I want to work in is going to be judged that way, not like how hard you're working, right? It's like you're in charge of seeing that this is done. And so it's like that's what it takes to get an application out now. It's not about effort. It's about like thoughtfulness and about getting it done and about the quality of the outcome. So that's very much like my value system for something like that. Anyway, so one thing I've been doing a lot of is like text transformation. It's really like slightly annoying tasks. So like today I was making a spreadsheet and to like build a financial model for like a potential project. I was like, let's see how viable this would be given different assumptions. And I did it like all horizontally. It's like all the different parameters. I did it like across. And then I was like, actually, I feel like I'd like this vertically better. So I just like pasted the row in to the chat and was like, okay, give me these vertically. And then it didn't work. Like it worked, but like when I copied and pasted it back into the spreadsheet, it didn't work. So it's like, give it to me in the code editor output such that when I paste it back into Sheets, it will be put every cell into a new line. And then that worked. So just really mild text transformations. Like there was a LinkedIn post today where I was like, I wanted to like make a vertical line that like separated it. And I was like, all right, dash, 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 dash. Give me enough of these to fill up a whole line of a LinkedIn post. And just like, boom, enough of them. I've been doing it for daily workflows in terms of podcasting. So I have someone I'm interviewing on Sunday, and he was sent to me by a podcasting agency. So like someone who like suggests guests to the show, like an inbound guest. And he seemed really cool. So I was all for it, but I haven't done my research yet. And so I get his guest bio, I paste his bio in there, and I'm say, okay, give me 15 podcast questions for this guy. This is his name. This is his backstory. Give me 15 thoughtful questions for him. Take inspiration from Joe Rogan and who else did I say? And Guy Raz. And give me like 15 really good questions. And it's all about structuring the question that you give to the chat interface. And then they're like really good. I'm like, these are kind of long. So it's like, all right, give me these same 15 questions. Keep as much of the detail as possible. Don't lose any of the nuance, but make them all shorter than 12 words because like they're like going too long. And then it did that. So it's really just like all of the small chunks of thinking throughout the day. I just had this person on my podcast, like construct a thoughtful follow-up email, express my thanks for having them on the show, and also include like links. What's really nice, so that's been something. And then for like my podcast for like titles and descriptions. So the agency that I work with to help me produce my show notes, sometimes they mess up like the formatting of like the bullet points. They do a really good job, but like they put in Google Docs, and when I paste from Google Docs to this other editor, I'm just like, it's like, okay, reformat it such that when I paste it into this system, it's going to output everything correctly. And it basically like recodes or like uses a different delimiter or like uses a different, there's probably a nerdy word for this, but a like a nerdy new line character or just like some basic like text encoding. So like maybe it's like UTF-8 in the one input and like a different in the other input, like when it comes out of the editor. So if you tell your Chat GPT to put stuff in the code block, that was like the best formatting. Because like for code, all of the formatting of like every particular indentation actually can make a difference. So like that's like a precise way that like when you paste from there into something else, it's most likely to retain the original structure. And then also just give me, 15 variations of the X. It's like, I want to make a tweet. What's really useful is when you have all the context of the given conversation. So it's like, okay, I just interviewed this person. We talked about this. So, okay, I have another tool I use that I transcribe just about every meeting that I have automatically. Because for months, I have like an AI that sits in on every meeting and makes a transcript of the meeting. And they recently added, it's called fireflies.ai. They recently added a light, I want to say GPT-3 wrapper to it. I don't know if that's the actual language model that's running the scenes there, but it's basically like a chat bot that understands that whole conversation. So I say, okay, give me this whole conversation summarized in 20 bullet points. And then I put that into another, like the actual Chat GPT, because it's better, and say, okay, help me write an email summarizing this conversation, or help me write a tweet about the main ideas in this conversation. This is the structure of the tweet. And then this is today's breakthrough. This is today's breakthrough. All right. So like when you're going through like 5 or 6 or 7 battles with like the prompts to like get exactly what you want in the output, then you say, okay, if I ever want to do this again, I don't want to go through all that. Give me an SOP that captures all of the nuance of all of the revisions that I've given you, such that when I show up here again, we can start from this point. And then it like gives you like, here's an SOP for everything we've covered, and captures all the nuance. So like you can start where you've already gotten to that point of training. And then it's just saving those SOPs into like a prompts library, like in Apple Notes or something simple. So none of those are like groundbreaking, but pretty good.
But it goes back to, I think, the original point, which was, you're using it to more effectively, efficiently get the task done. It's
Yep. Personal assistant.
Like in a nutshell, that's the way I look at it right now. And there are
I didn't talk about like building code with it yet. I've done so much programming with it. I've done a lot of programming with it.
By all means. Like, to be honest with you, I even DM'd you and I told you, I was like, I'm gonna have to pick your brain a lot on how to do this. And I even like, what I like to do, or at least in this sort of, on the topic of how to code it out, I'll first sort of prompt the questions of, hey, what is the best way to build this in Python? Like, what are the best libraries to use and stuff like that? And I'll have it literally start telling me what to essentially almost give it, to then feed it back in the right way. Yeah.
Exactly. So, one small thing as well. I was hosting a cocktail party a couple months ago, and I was like, I don't drink a lot. And I was like, okay, I want a menu with 5 drinks. These are the liquors I have. These are the mixers I have. Give me a menu of like 5 options. And like it did that. It's like really basic, like food combination stuff as well. Like, this is what's in my fridge. What should I make? I just bought an air fryer. Give me 10 recipes. Yeah, here we go. We got it. Something clicked here. But it's like, I just bought an air fryer and I don't want to spend more than 20 minutes cooking each meal. Give me some ideas that are like super beef intensive. And it's like, boom, ground beef with this with this, this with this, this with this, this with this. One that I want to spin up into like really light sass that would be kind of cute would be trivia questions. This was when I came up with when I was playing with it with my dad. Basically just like, I'm hosting a party, a Jeopardy style trivia party. Give me 10 multiple choice questions about Alabama football, make them moderately difficult, and then give me a key at the end. And it was like amazing.
Bro, game
so
nights
like really
forever changed.
Cute tasks like that. Game nights forever changed with like the trivia.
Lois,
and that one's like tough to not get existential with. Okay,
I got to bring you back for a second. Okay.
You're helping me remember. I could open mine and see all the stuff in my own tab history as well.
No, I want this. Anyway. I want to honestly like see if we could freak out Chat GPT, because there's a larger question that we have to get to, and we do have to address like the question of, whether or not it can eventually become sentient. So right now, all I've said is all I have in my fridge is a frozen ground beef patties, ketchup. Give me a couple other things that like just random. I want like random, absurd, unrelatable. Sauerkraut. How do I?
See, that's fine. I actually enjoy, part of the joy is like doing it wrong and like watching it perform well, even with things totally fucked up. Like, I don't try to correct my spelling. I try to like let the first draft rip.
Fair.
Because it's like teaching me how much it can like teaching me the capabilities to be like sauerkraut, like totally screwed up. I'm just like thinking of what's in my fridge. I've got a lot of like salts. I don't keep my salt in the fridge, but baking soda, and it's okay. Baking soda's in the fridge. Some hot sauce maybe. I had some melons and some oranges. So one thing I've said is like, do not feel the need to include every ingredient in every recipe, right? That's like, because otherwise
I want to see what this comes back with though. If we just say like, give me a recipe, this is all I got.
Yeah, I got maybe some frozen broccoli or something. And yeah, I keep a pretty Bitcoiner fridge for sure.
Right. Trust
Uh,
me.
you need to
Speaking
tell it what should I make now, but it's just already making suggestions. Beef and broccoli, pretty classic, pretty
one
easy.
tablespoon of baking soda. Ew.
Oh, that actually, I have to think about that.
I
But
don't
like
think you
sometimes like the
should.
beef and broccoli kind of has that. I don't know much about baking soda.
There
I don't
is
incorporate it
something
into my
weird in
recipes.
there. Actually, is something weird in beef and
But it
broccoli.
definitely does seem like what's that?
I think you're right that there is something almost maybe not baking soda, but
Well,
like
because
baking soda
when it's
adjacent.
Chinese, they kind of have that like slime to it or whatever.
Well, it's
That like
got a lot of Chinese food has cornstarch in it. Like the
yeah, that's
meats
what I'm thinking.
typically,
Like the corn
yeah,
exactly.
it's typically coated in that.
So maybe it can kind of like act as the cornstarch. But this definitely like is more useful when you have uh
So you're
like the
only
proper list of
you're only
ingredients.
blanching the broccoli in um the baking soda. So
Oh, so
actually,
add
that's
the baking
valid.
soda.
That's a very valid part of
I think
the.
it just wanted everyone to be included. It was like
No, it did. Like, look, serve hot
as
with some sauerkraut on the side and fresh strawberries for dessert. Like, straight up. Like, it. Yeah.
and
Okay.
it
Now, so
oh, okay, here's some sauce. Unrelated pun. Okay. I don't even know if it counts as a pun. But color palettes. I've been using it for color palettes.
okay, we're gonna go back to Chat
So it's
GPT.
like I have Hex, Hex, my podcast, like the main blue of my podcast is like Hex. I don't know what it is, but it's like I can find it real quick with color picker. It's like design me, yeah, give me a color palette, then maybe like parentheses with hex codes, uh, for I don't know, like for the branding for a late night podcast about Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly. And then but I almost always ask it for like multiple variations. You know what I mean? Because it's like, uh, but like you post this into like an actual visualization, and they usually look decent. Where it's like, what's a nice color that goes well with this? It's like for basic graphic design, like okay, I'm like I know I want this color in this document,
Mhm.
but like how can I accompany it? Like what are some nice colors to go with this? And like it'll spit out the output in hex. So that's been something I've like I don't know if anyone else who's come up with that. I'm taking some. I was at least intentionally original on that one. I'm sure someone else has discussed it,
Oh, okay. I've
but
got it. I've got another. Which my thumbnail be for a late night talk show
yeah,
where we will
discuss
discuss.
like what elements. Yeah, discuss
GPT.
what elements should be on the screen and where I should put them. Uh, talk. Yeah, some of these are interesting. Do you know what ASCII art is?
Ask AR.
No. So ASCII, ASCII. That stands for like the American Standard something or other.
I do
It's
not know.
basically just art with just like when people do like the stick character, like so a smiley face is technically ASCII art.
Mhm.
Meaning it's just like when people make a design out of just traditional characters on your keyboard.
Okay.
So it's like so it can make like a Christmas tree that's like out of all of the different like what's this one called? Carrot. So it's like carrot, 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 carrot,
Mhm.
carrot, carrot, carrot with like stick, 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 stick. So it's just like when people make designs using just characters. Super, super. Again, I don't want to use the word esoteric for the fifth time, but kind of esoteric. I thought it would be able to make that, and it wasn't. I actually haven't tried if GPT-4 can make ASCII art yet. So GPT-3 could do ASCII art of a stick figure. Like if you ask it that, and I could spell it out, ASCII.
No, I got it.
But that one I was pretty disappointed because it can't draw. Basically, it's like it can't draw yet. But
No,
maybe
but
it
you
can if
could.
I tell ASCII arts.
Oh, so here's another one that I want to do.
That was me trying to find a workaround for drawing.
Here, give me a good Dolly prompt for the
Exactly. So I've
first.
been using it for prompts. It doesn't know what Dolly is.
Oh, doesn't it?
You should ask it. So sometimes I go, "Do you know what Dolly is?" Or you can say Dolly is a AI for generating images.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah. See, I would just stop. Yeah,
Dolly.
Dolly is an AI that helps me generate images. Oh, okay. So far, I'm feeling more confident on. I'm getting more confident on GPT-4 being better ASCII art. Give me ASCII art of a cup of coffee. I don't know why this has been like one I've been trying to figure. It's just been like my idea for a workaround for how to get a. Oh, that's better. That's actually not bad.
Well, we're about to go to Dolly
Okay.
right after this, so we're gonna put this to the test.
Okay.
I guess it's done. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Yeah. Have you done much Midjourney?
I haven't actually.
In my opinion, Midjourney is way better.
I,
I'm gonna pay for it soon,
I'm
but it's not like a one-click install. It's like you have to get on Discord. I
okay.
feel
The
the
whole
same way
thing.
about Discord that I feel about. I don't feel quite the same way that I feel about Microsoft products that I feel about Discord, but Discord is definitely tough for me.
Oh shoot.
I could overcome that for sure.
All right. So I've had that whole prompt. It's Dolly. Yeah, I fuck with
That was
this.
fast.
I fuck with this, to be honest with you.
Which one?
I kind of
I
like
like the third one.
these are the two I like. I don't like the ones with multiple chairs. This is good though. This is good. I'm gonna talk to so for season 2, I kind of mentioned to you what I'm trying to do. So season 2 going to be a new image, and the image that I want to do. So I have a green screen. Like, dude, I'm so technically unsavvy. If you've actually been paying attention to this show, like, I apologize. I'm still learning, but I appreciate you coming with me along on this journey as I grow. So, anyways, I got a green screen, and what I want to do is I want to just like have the green screen in the background of me sitting at the desk with a hoodie and a blazer, but then just like the green screen is like green as like kind of the joke or the gag. Like
Okay.
I still don't know how to run this shit, but we're working on it. We're moving on up. And so I would just put that, like superimpose it with then like that third image from Dolly. I'm gonna save that one, honestly.
It's not. You got to play with Midjourney. My opinion, in the Midjourney is awesome.
Okay.
I hosted a cocktail party. I think I already mentioned this. A different one though, from the one I had the menu for. I hosted one called Rooftop Mimosas, and I had mimosas on the rooftop. It was nice. And anyway,
Did you serve any food at least?
Abundance.
I feel like you're getting.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Good.
We made pancakes. We made fried eggs. We put out fruit. A plus experience. And then, anyway, I wanted to make artwork for that event, and I did that with Midjourney, and I made some really nice artwork of like it was like 1950s vintage newspaper ad style of like a glass of champagne on like the roof of a building, but it was like in a newspaper, but it was set in the desert with cactuses and mountains and like a sunset. It was a beautiful, beautiful flyer.
So we are coming to our time. As I mentioned to you, I could talk to you about Chat GPT for days on end. Needless to say, we have one more question, and then I will turn it over to you for a final word. I want to remind everyone who is watching this later, if you have made it this far, I'm so grateful and thank you. Please make sure, if you're listening on podcast, to leave us a review. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you share this with your friends and family so other people can discover we're only getting better. My final question just on this topic, and I say this before I also tell you that you're coming back on the show. You kind of don't have a say in this. You're coming back.
Come back.
You wince at that. He did not
Clear the calendar.
He did not want to come back. All right. So we're giving AI a lot of information. Okay. And it obviously has access to all the information that's on the internet anyways. But is there any concern that this could at some point just become a sentient thing, and like, I don't know, like, why would it tell us? Why would it not then try to, adjust things accordingly that it felt like it was more beneficial for us to know things? Like I know you said you hate the take on all the people who quoted the bias, but like, just, I'm high, you're on a late night show, so just let me ask the question. Like, say it becomes sentient. Like, what's to stop these programs from doing things to essentially allow itself to become the dominant species? Is that even a concern of yours? Do I need to stop smoking?
I would say those are two different questions.
Focus on the first. We can ignore the second.
I'm cool with that. I think that, I'm not the person who's spent the most time thinking about that and prepared to give an insightful answer. So I just say it from the outset. I don't know like who I'm going to do any favors to by taking the time to like try to say something intelligent when I don't have something intelligent to say on the subject. I'm kind of like, of all the things in like our reality that like are imperfect, right? This potential negative outcome being one of them. It's also just kind of like people being like, what happens if like FDIC insurance collapses, right? It's like we're kind of just all operating as if that, you know what I mean?
We
That's like
almost just
because it's
watched
like
FDIC insurance collapse over the weekend. That was a
that's what I'm
terrible.
saying.
That was a terrible comp, bro. Like we are 5 days removed from everyone genuinely bearing witness to and realizing that
Wondering,
FDIC insurance is not as credible as we thought. If there was a large enough,
correct?
if there was a large enough bank run, we would all be fucked. There's only like
Yes.
1.6% of all the money that FDIC insurance should have backed up at the FDIC. But I interrupted you. Please continue. And like, I'm not looking for eloquence here. I'm looking for the late night TV. I want
Yeah, the late
the like, give me
the
your
late
tinfoil hat
yeah.
theory.
Oh, okay, that's a different question. I'm just kind of like, yeah, the non late night answer is like, the tail risk is of like X thing happening. It's like I can't live my life as if that's what's most likely because that's just not gonna be very fun.
No, of course not. That's
And
why like tinfoil hat it, bro.
yeah, exactly. So, but if we're tinfoil hatting it, it's like, it's kind of just like I'm thinking through like the second order consequences for another podcast buzzword, but the uh not deep in the sci-fi lore, man.
Bro,
Not
all right.
saying that
I
like the
will I
sci-fi.
will answer my own question for you to leave you
Let's
something to
do it.
chew on so that when you come back we can discuss. Um Genuinely, there is now like a side plot in my mind where one of the possible realities where like you and I think are on the same page that there is a possibility that we live in some sort of a computer simulation. Whether we do or not is irrelevant. Like it's not going to change what I do with
I
my
guess I have
life.
more to say about that for sure.
But the point I'm
I
trying
have
to
more to
get
say about
to.
the simulation hypothesis than the AI sentience hypothesis.
So well, let me connect
It's,
the two for you.
I'm definitely on team simulation confirmed for
Okay,
sure.
but let me connect the two for you, please. So as we've shown you, there's an image generating AI. There's a just for all intents and purposes, because I'm not as smart as Lois, word generating API AI. So we got these two.
Not inaccurate at all.
So who's to say if one became sentient, it couldn't code out a system to essentially create a digital fucking universe and in essence almost create a simulation to put to sleep the humans that created it.
I think that's one of those things that's like logically difficult to disprove.
We literally created our robot overlords. All I'm going to say on that note. um, Lois, it is after the hour. I leave it up to you if you want to go down the simulation rabbit hole right now, or if you want to save it for the next time we get a chance to talk, because I will bother you to come on again, even though you
We
don't
can
want
save the
to.
sim. I'm happy to return.
I can
No, it's
see
just like
the
when someone
sadness
asks
in
you
your
something.
eyes.
It's when someone like no, it's like when someone asks you to do something that it's like outside of your normal rhythm. I guess for me as like a very structured person, it's like I do want to do that. Let me just consider all the things I need to consider before I like. It's just like I got to rearrange a thing or two, but happy to do it.
You heard it. He's committed. Hold him to it. Hold him accountable, people. I'm busting balls, bro. We'll figure it out. If this is too late and you don't want to stay up late, we can always just pre-record as well. But
Bro,
on
this is
that
Pacific
note,
time. It's 9 p.m.
yeah, it's 9 p.m. for me too, but it is very close to my
Yeah.
bedtime. This is the I've learned this the hard way. I'm really trying to move my bedtime up, and unfortunately, the window where like I'm supposed to cut off screens is right now. So I'm doing myself no favors in doing that. So there may be a shift in our regularly scheduled programming up an hour, but until that moment, we'll be back tomorrow. Lois, I leave you with the final word.
Final word. There's so much we could cover. Okay. I would say definitely play with, Bitcoin and Chat GPT 3/4. It's like I remember when I listened to Guy Swan's podcast for the first time. It was like, now I was like trying to learn about Bitcoin at that point. And I was like, I'm just going to listen to podcasts about it and like figure it out. And maybe it was when I was listening to his podcast, maybe it was when I was interviewing him. I'm not sure like in what order these things happened. But basically, he's like, the way you learn about Bitcoin is you just jump in. It's a river. It's never the same river, never the same man, never the same anything else. You just jump in. And this stuff's not that interesting until you start playing with it, until you start buying, some sats, asking Chat GPT 3, leaving it open during the day, and just being like, oh, what am I doing right now that I could have a little bit of help with? Like, reformat this. Like, if you've anything that you're like paraphrasing, like, can you paraphrase this? Could you add fluff here? Like any trivial task during the day, just like leave it open and find something to do with it. Gotta help the people get their hands dirty. And that's my last thought on these particular topics. I'd say just like go forth and do, and that's it. Thanks, Q.
Where can people keep up to date with all the things you're cooking up and building?
Yeah, I remember a while ago I was listening to some podcasts, like sort of like this one, and like saw people do like the thing where they like put their username as like their name, and I'm like, oh, that's so trendy. Look at those good marketers. So I did that this whole time. And like you're like enter your name. I'm like at Louis Shulman. That's me being the trendy marketer. So I'm on Twitter at Louis Shulman. It's been in your face the whole time, the way to spell it, and same on LinkedIn as well. And I'm pretty active there, at least for the time being.
Thank you so much, brother, for joining us. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. It has been another episode of Late Night Bitcoin. I'm going to go smoke some weed. Good night.